Hi, this is Sue Berg from the Monroe County Extension Office here in Bloomington, and we're here today to share another segment of our Putting Foods By. And today we're going to be talking about freezing, which is probably the simplest way to put foods by, and we'll be sharing some tips with you in making it easier, less expensive, but still have quality food when it comes back out of the freezer. And with me today is a friend who I will let introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Solomon. I'm the Assistant Director of Mother Hubbard's Hubbard. I am so excited to be here for Putting Food By. We are a food pantry that really prioritizes offering nutrition and garden education that allows our clients and our community to be more healthy and self-sufficient, even kind of regardless of income. So thanks for having me here.
Thanks, Stephanie. And hopefully between us we can share some ideas of how to freeze and also how to keep it so that they will taste good when you get them out of the freezer. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about freezing, we need to think that we need to freeze food quickly. Mm-hmm. When we did our food preservation in the jars, it was a little bit longer, but this is one of those things that as quickly as you can get it from the garden or the tree or the bush and into the freezer, the better it is. And that's one reason why when I'm in with fifth graders particularly, they'll say to me, well, Sue, what is more nutritious, canned, frozen, or fresh?
That's what I was about to ask.
And actually you'll find that either canned or frozen commercially are better than fresh, because of the system in which our food comes to us.
Oh, so a fresh blueberry from my backyard wouldn't have the same nutrition as a fresh blueberry from Kroger
Chile.
Or from the grocery store.
Exactly. So that's the part when we're talking about quickly. It's not only the speed in which we handle it at home, but how quickly it goes from where it grew to when it's frozen.
Right.
And so that in frozen foods, one of the things that is always a surprise for people is that when you buy frozen peas or frozen green beans, how green they look, as compared to when we freeze them at home, they may not be as green. And that's because some of your vegetables commercially frozen are actually soaked in salt water to help keep their color. So if you're sodium sensitive, that's probably not a good idea.
Right, so you really want to check the frozen foods to
Read
see if they have
the labels, which is another whole program in itself.
Definitely.
But today we're going to do blueberries, and because we've been at the library for several hours, our blueberries have begun to thaw a little bit from when I was showing them. But anything that you want to have from fresh to frozen that is individualized is that things like blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, any of your berries, peach slices, anything that you want to be able to take 2 or 3 pieces out of the container when you're wanting to use them. We do what we call dry freezing. And what that is that you don't have to blanch them. All you do is wash them and make sure you get all the little stems out of them and all the little leaves. If I'm picking blueberries, I get leaves with it too.
Yeah.
Because too often I find snakes that are eating blueberries with me, or big brown bears. And so wash the berries, but only until right before you're ready to freeze them. Don't ever wash berries ahead of time because they'll get mushy.
Okay.
So like if you bring strawberries in from the garden, or you bring strawberries in from the grocery store or from the food pantry, leave them in the container but give them air, because no vegetable grows in a plastic bag.
Right.
And so, baby carrots, all that kind of stuff. Carrots don't grow in plastic bags in the garden. And so get them out in the air. And the blueberries, I took and washed them this morning, and then I will put them in the freezer. And unfortunately, these have begun to thaw, so they're looking a little mushy. But when they're frozen this way, then you can pour them into a freezer weight bag. And I say freezer weight, and it doesn't matter what brand it is, but the key to it is to make sure that it's the freezer weight because of the milliliters of micromillimeter thickness of the bag. If we try to use sandwich bags or, as my mom likes to do, bread bags, they all have microscopic holes in them so that they will actually cause freezer burn.
Oh, okay.
And so when you package berries, you can put them in a bag or you put them in a container that's that will seal closely. But try to make it a full bag or a full container. If you don't have a full container, then use either a piece of wax paper and crumple it up to take up space.
Oh, okay.
So that the air doesn't get in there, and especially with our frost-free refrigerators and freezers these days,
right.
the air circulates through the cooling unit, and as long as there's air to circulate, it will continue to circulate and cause freezer burn. And freezer burn is what makes food taste yucky.
Okay.
Because they've begun to dry out.
Right.
So with this, what we would do is we would use the permanent marker, and on that I would put down blueberries, and it's a pint, and I'm freezing it on March 25th. Again, so that when I get them out of the freezer, I know which ones are the freshest and which ones I have to use up, like in blueberry pancakes or blueberry muffins,
right.
versus the ones I'd put in fruit salad.
Right.
And you can eat them frozen, so they don't change colors like they have here on the tray. You can eat them frozen. So if you're making fruit salad or something, put the blueberries in frozen and serve them frozen, and by the time the guests begin to eat it, they'll be thawed enough, but they won't make the whole fruit salad blue.
Okay.
Okay? And the same thing when you're making muffins and pancakes. You know, sometimes when you make a blueberry muffin, it comes out funny looking when you go to open it up. If you use frozen blueberries and coat them in flour just before you put them into the mix, then they won't sink to the bottom, and they also won't turn blue, won't turn purple and green.
Oh, and you'll have that perfect blueberry.
That's right. That's right. So again, tips that a little off the beaten path, but it's okay. So that's doing berries, and it's very simple to do. Freeze them for probably half an hour, and then take them back out, bag them up, and put them back in the freezer. And then you can use them for up to 6 months without any problem. And so our blueberries are an even easier way to do things. And then you say, okay, but the spinach is starting to come up. The gardens are, you know, those of us that couldn't wait till real spring and planted early, our cold crops. We have fresh spinach that we're going to put in the freezer this time. And so what we need to do with almost everything except berries is we have to do what we call blanching. And blanching is what causes the enzymes in the vegetables or fruits to stop ripening.
Okay.
And so that when you blanch, it stops that ripening process. So that, like, if you went to put spinach in the freezer without blanching it, it would come out drippy and gooey and rubbery because it continued to want to grow, trying to survive its, you know, be in the survival mode as it was getting colder and colder and colder.
Oh.
Okay, so anything that you put in the freezer needs to be blanched. And so the easy way to blanch is to take your spinach and wash it really well, and you know, cut off the stems that are real woody, and then just simply, and you know, this looks like a lot of spinach, but when we get through the blanching process, it's going to be a whole different story.
It's amazing how greens cook.
That's right. And so that the spinach, this is about a half a pound of spinach, and we're going to be able to put it in its own bag. Now the bag I stored this in is not a freezer weight bag. This is a storage bag, so you need to read the labels on your boxes. This one still has the double zipper in it, but you can feel the difference between that bag
light
and this bag.
Yeah, that's...
And so the heavier weight bag is what we need to use when we're freezing things. So storage bags are fine for short-term storage, but for freezing, these do not get put in the freezer. Bread wrappers don't get put in the freezer.
Right.
And bread wrappers are renowned by people to put chicken in and put, you know, when you're butchering and so on.
It's good to know. I definitely do it myself.
And the thing of it is, with bread wrappers, in the baking process, when we bake a loaf of bread at home, we take it out, we put it out on the cutting board or the cooling rack and let it cool, and then we put it in a plastic bag. Well, commercially, they don't do that. Commercially, they're baked and put in the bag while they're still hot.
Okay.
But we never see soggy bread
Yeah.
because the air holes are there to let it cool off
Okay, that makes sense.
and the moisture to go out. Well, if there's holes to let the moisture go out, those holes will also let air come in.
That's a problem in the freezer.
And so when you do that in the freezer, even if you double bag, because my mother's tried to explain to me that double bagging would take care of the problem. It doesn't. Is that it's still got microscopic air holes that are going to cause the air to come into the product, and then you're going to have freezer burn. And that's what makes chicken and meat particularly, because we have a tendency to store those a little longer. Get the white streaks in them.
Oh.
Not very good. Another example that I have